about the future of stablecoins and interoperability with James Friel from Axelar Network. Welcome on stage.
How are you?
Good, good. So welcome to Unstable. I'm your moderator, Jazzy, as you may remember from 5 minutes ago. And we have the pleasure to speak with James today. James is the Director of Business Development at Axelar. And today we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about interoperability and blockchain. So James, do you want to kick off with an introduction?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't think this is on, is it? People hear me all right? Okay, cool. Yeah, James Friel, Director of Business Development at Interop Labs. We're a technology company that builds interoperability software, and we're the initial developers of the Axelar network. Axelar, for those that are unfamiliar, is a fully decentralized interoperability network. So we operate our own Cosmos SDK Layer 1 delegated proof-of-stake validator set securing this bridge. And I think we'll get into more detail about how we view, a key difference between general message passing, arbitrary message passing within interoperability from simple token bridging, which was, just previously discussed.
Yeah, that's great. So, let's start high level. Interoperability is obviously becoming more and more of a common term in blockchain. How do you think about interoperability? What is it? Why is it important?
Yeah, so obviously the last group, really dug into it, so I'll try to keep this answer rather short. But it's about composability of users and assets across different chains. We do see that different chains are going to optimize for different use cases. We are of the belief that even with parallelized execution and some of the developments that are coming out, that there will not be a single ecosystem that will serve every audience and every purpose. And for that reason, you're going to have fragmentation of users and liquidity. And so in order to create a Web 2 type experience where we can really onboard this next billion users that everyone talks about, interoperability is a key component of that. Infrastructure that can allow you to compose those assets and users without, abstracting that away so that the user themselves does not have to be switching wallets, but to be discussed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so Axelar so far has integrated, over 55 blockchains. How do you think about the additional value of each new blockchain in the network?
So I think it's related to the point I was just making, which is each uniquely brings different properties. So if it's XRPL, who has a great reputation with an institutional audience and has a potential to really become a hub for the issuance of RWAs and become a central hub of trading, that's a unique proposition to the rest of the network, where it might be an app-specific chain that has a kick-ass game, or it might be a modular stack that has super high throughput that enables, different type of DeFi primitives. So I think with each one that we add, as long as there are users who believe that there's a unique value to operating on that chain, then we want them to be a part of the network so that we can create these one-click experiences for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to kind of piggyback on that, I think something that I really appreciate about Axelar as compared to some of the other bridges in the ecosystem is sort of that hub and spoke model, right? Where each additional chain allows for access to 55 other chains, and it doesn't require you guys as an intermediary to integrate with each individual chain. And so you're really 2 hops away as a user, regardless of where you want to go.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I think there's 2 main designs that we see in the space. There's a hub and spoke architecture, and then there's a pairwise connection, so point-to-point bridges. And there are other interoperability providers who may support various chains, but for a connection, you need to build independent endpoints that connect to all of the other chains you want connection to. And they are unaware of each other, which creates security risks, which we saw with the multi-chain hack. It also creates more infrastructure on that L1 or that L1 or L2 team to operate, and you have to pass that down actually to the application developers as well. So having a single endpoint that connects into the Axelar chain as a hub, and then providing that one-to-end connectivity. So as we scale the network, there is an additional bridge work or infrastructure that needs to be built on XRPL, I think is a really unique value prop of what we've built.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of security, elephant in the room, that's been a massive challenge area for bridges over the past couple of years. Partially responsible, arguably, for the decline of DeFi, a year and a half ago. How does Axelar really think about security, and what are some of the mechanisms that you guys have introduced to bridge technology to allow for safe cross-chain bridging of financial assets?
Yeah, so I think our approach to security is multifaceted. So we introduce things like rate limits on this hub and spoke architecture, again, to prevent contagion should there ever arise an issue with one of these spokes on one of these chains. But the core of security, in our view, comes from decentralization. If you believe that decentralization provides security, then that's where Axelar lives through utilizing what's battle tested for the rest of the EVM world and Solana, which is a proof of stake validator set. So we have the AXL token, which is the governance token of the Axelar network. We have a fully permissionless validator set. Anybody can spin up a validator. 75 validators. You can acquire AXL through any means publicly, and the top 75 validators that hold AXL are a part of the active set. And so 2/3 of the validators sign off on every cross-chain message. And so through that, we have not seen in the industry two-thirds of 75, that number of nodes compromised. We've seen quite small centralized bridges where either a single key holds the bridge or a 2 of 3 or 3 of 5 multi-sig, and that's just not sufficiently decentralized enough for the amount of liquidity that's passing through these bridges. And so we were slower to market because, as some people here may know, and you guys do, building a robust validator set with good partners on an L1 is difficult. But now we're here, and we really think that this is the right approach for scale.
Yeah, definitely. And I imagine there's another advantage of the hub and spoke model there. With you guys effectively serving as an intermediary blockchain and also specializing an entire company that's very innovative, very tech forward, living, breathing, cross-chain interoperability every day, that I imagine new innovations will come out to further enhance security and make sure there are checks and balances between the two chains. And if a single chain in the network is compromised, that doesn't necessarily mean that every other chain is going to be compromised because you have that layer in the middle. Would you say that's right?
I would say that's right. And those are some of those the multifaceted aspect that I was getting at. You look at things like using quadratic voting, key rotations for the validator set. I think if you look at our team and the founding team, these are some of the best cryptographers and security experts in the industry, and I think the team is very thoughtful about how security, even just beyond the idea that 2/3 of the validator set won't be compromised. You need to be prepared for those edge cases.
Yeah, definitely. So shifting gears a little bit, when a lot of people think about interoperability, we think about token transfers and the ability to move your USDC from chain A to chain B. But there's a new innovation that's general message passing that Axelar has come out with that allows for not only the transfer of tokens, but the transfer of information. Could you tell us a little bit about what general message passing is and what some of the use cases are that you're excited about?
Yeah, so as Jazzy was getting at, there are some bridges that can only transfer tokens. Axelar can pass arbitrary messages, and so we've coined it general message passing. And what it allows you to do is pass any payload. So you can execute a function on a smart contract that exists on a destination chain. So those can be data calls or function calls. You can imagine a data call would be if somebody had their credit score stored on chain B. And this was a privacy-preserving chain. And chain A, XRPL, had a lending protocol that was going to give you a rate based on your credit rating. That we could actually send a data call to a contract over on the other chain, just receive enough of the private information that says this is your band without revealing your private information that allowed you that credit score, and then we send that data back. In that instance, no token or NFT was actually transferred over the bridge. It was just a data call. You can imagine a function call would exist if someone on XRPL wants to use the assets that they hold as collateral in order for them to be able to get a loan on a separate chain, call it Avalanche. Now we're actually executing a function in a smart contract, which is allowing that user to receive those funds and maybe stake them. And you can start to append in a single payload multiple steps. to start to create some more complex DeFi applications, which ultimately the complexity of the payload results in simplicity for the user, because now they can just do super cool things where those multiple steps are completely abstracted from them.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely something that I'm excited about. From a blockchain infrastructure perspective, I feel like this finally gives chains permission to specialize and not try to be, a jack of all trades. If we look at the XRP ledger, that chain is really great at value transfer, at payments, at trading, and has a long history of user development, liquidity aggregation, and so. Using the institutional relationships and trust as real-world assets, for example, are issued on the XRP ledger. Those assets can be held and traded, but what if a user now wants to do some complex, advanced, niche use case with, derivatives trading based on that asset, and that's not possible on a ledger like XRPL, where
Exactly.
there isn't full programmability of smart contracts. So you can actually call smart contracts on other chains using GMP and really unlock the best of both worlds and liquidity aggregation as well in one. So it's quite an
Perfectly
exciting
said.
tech. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So one more question for you is about Axelar Network and some of the applications that are being developed on top of it. I'm familiar with Squid Router, which allows for cross-chain trading. But what are some of the other applications, and can you tell us a little bit more about where that space is headed?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that might not be familiar with Squid Router, it's a liquidity routing layer that's built on top of Axelar GMP, and it's using existing liquidity within DEXs. So some bridges, you actually need to put liquidity pairs on both sides of that so that somebody can trade. Instead, what it's doing is it's just observing existing liquidity within DEXs on these 55 plus chains that Axelar supports, and it's routing messages in order for you to swap from an asset you may hold on chain A into a native asset that you hold on chain B. But I'm careful not to just call them like a swaps protocol, because they're doing some new cool things using this liquidity routing layer. Now they're composing on top of that swap, purchase this NFT and return it to somebody's wallet. So now you can imagine a checkout experience in a game or an NFT marketplace where somebody's getting that same experience. As long as you have an asset that's on any of the chains Axelar supported, you disintermediate what the actual NFT is denominated in. And so there's some other cool ones I think that apply to this group is like you look at Prime Protocol, who's allowing you to collateralize assets that you hold on different chains in order to issue a single loan. Historically, you would have had to bridge all of those assets over to a single chain in order for that application to be able to observe that Jazzy owns $5 million of USDC. It started as $1 million on 5 different chains, but we need to observe that over on the destination chain. With Axelar and GMP, we make it possible for you to actually keep those assets on those different chains. And if you think about the scale of like trying to bring in institutional trading or some higher sums, the slippage that you'd incur to aggregate those assets is less than ideal. You want to be able to keep those assets in those portfolios, be able to just show that you own those, and issue a single loan against them. And that wasn't possible before, which is super neat. So I think we're continuing to see new innovations as application developers understand what they can do on top of GMP. And I think that the depth of liquidity that XRPL can potentially bring to this network is only going to expand these use cases and what can be built.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. And it sounds like the perfect solution to the next generation of on-chain finance and really simplifying the user experience and the depth of the markets to allow a broader adoption and broader user base. So definitely excited for that next chapter.
I'll ask you, I know we only have a few seconds remain, but I think the answer would be helpful for this group. Can you talk for just maybe 30 seconds about how you see the compatibility of XRPL and the EVM sidechain that you guys are building?
Yeah. So I think it ties back to the example I gave before. XRPL is really great at value transfer. It's incredibly fast and cheap payments, cost less than a fraction of a penny, and executes in a second or two. And there's also a native decentralized exchange that's based on order books. Hopefully that's soon to be expanded to include integrated automated market making in addition to the order books-based trading system. So trading and value transfer is definitely a sweet spot there. But when it comes to more complex operations or highly specific financial protocols, that's not the sweet spot, and the XRP Ledger community doesn't necessarily want it to be. So that's where we can really lean on our Axelar partnership, use general message passing, and actually allow applications to develop their tokenization engine on XRPL mainnet, their trading engine on XRPL mainnet, and then tap into advanced derivatives and other capabilities on the EVM sidechain. And those users never actually have to move their wallet or interact with the sidechain itself. So it's a very seamless experience. It really allows for the best of both worlds and is made possible by Axelar and GMP. So definitely excited about that.
That's awesome. We're very excited for this partnership. For anybody that's interested in learning more, feel free to grab me or feel free to check out Axelar at axelar.network.
Yeah, thanks so much, James. Really appreciate your time and insights here.
Thanks, Jazzy.